I always have to like double check just to make sure it's all working. But good morning. This is the Thursday morning fundamentals class with Kire Franklin. That is me. Um, we've been consistently going over anatomy over here at the Reinventing the Tattoo crew with Guy Atchison and Carter Sturdivant. They've both been doing wonderful jobs with their anatomy classes. And we're going to bring them up quite frequently throughout mine, just to get everybody on kind of like the similar page in case you didn't really catch up to them. But this week we're doing eyes, nose, and mouth. We'll be learning about the simplistic structures of the eyes, nose, and mouth, and really taking them, just making sure I'm on the right microphone. Taking them into a fundamental structure and understanding the relationships they need to have together. I know we've been working on the skull mainly and the head as a whole, rather than kind of jumping around to different parts of anatomy, because I think, skulls are very important in your apprenticeship, and I think everybody should learn how to draw a skull. They're very common in tattooing, and in a historical sense as well. Skulls have always been one of the most popular. Skulls and roses, skulls and roses. So with that said, we're going to get started here. I had one submission. A good friend Kyle did submit his portrait that he did last week using the paper method, which was taught last class. And basically, it's not one, and I said this last class, it's not one that I would immediately jump to. I think my whole point with it was to show the simplistic ways of viewing things, because not only do I want to help you on the artistic side of everything, but also the way that you view the outside world around you. And if you start viewing things a lot more in the simplistic state, then you can really relax when you sit down and do the project that you're thinking of doing. So if you think of just the face as a piece of paper that's just folded over, and kind of build the structures based off that, you don't have to worry too much about the direction of the face once you want to do more dynamic poses, like looking down or looking up or side to side. So let me do the screen share thing again. All right. I hope everything is facing the right direction this time. If this is your first time here, you should mention that you guys can jump in on the Zoom once I post it. I like to talk a little bit in the beginning, so that way everybody's kind of on the same page. So they feel like they learned a little bit before they jump into what I will plan for the assignment. Today we're going to be doing quite a bit of talking, and it's going to be a lot of information. So your assignment is just going to be doing flash sheets of just focusing on the eyes, nose, and mouth, not doing anything else around it. So we'll get to that, but for now, we'll jump to Kyle's here. And if my iPad does start dying, I will plug it in. But that will be on a little intermission here. So this is Kyle's submission. I think he did a fantastic job. Honestly, I probably should have talked about this, which I will talk about next week, which was picking out good references. And this is not a shot at you, Kyle. This is on me. So I completely did not really teach everybody how to do or choose a good reference to help yourself a little bit better. This reference isn't terrible as far as learning the facial structure of things, but as far as definition, it may have actually been not great for you as far as learning. A lot of what's in this face is one tone, like it's kind of one value, which you had originally just sent me your image, which is why I kind of asked you last minute to send me over your reference as well. Because I didn't want us to go into the reference or the portrait that you did without looking at the reference, because I want to see where your head was at and what you were thinking of. So Overall, the way you placed everything is very on point. I was very proud of that. Um, I think the only things, a few things that I could say would be, reference wise, try and pick something with more of like a two-toned, like if the light was facing in this direction and you saw a distinct shadow on this side of the face, like that would help you out more. It would teach you about, more of that structure on the nose, because really that nose doesn't really have a whole lot. It's very pixelated. So try and pick something along those realms, or you can always make it yourself, but we're not going to get too much into that. We'll focus on references next week for our final, but overall the structure that you did here was pretty on point. I think the only thing I would say would be the direction of your mouth. So if you were thinking about it like a piece of paper, right, and everything was here, right, or what you were seeing, everything's there, okay? That mouth has to do the same thing. It has to have that nice curvature, but if you see here, it's kind of like at an angle. So you have it like at this kind of angle here, which you're pretty on point. Like this is just nitpicking. Don't, you know what I mean? But we'll learn today about mouths, that mouths are actually very, very, very picky. And they work a lot of, in angles, but people see them as very soft. So they wouldn't think that to use angular shapes with mouths. They would think to use more like C curves, and you got that Cupid's bow, and then like nice plump lips, and then the bottom lip will just follow. Like that's a very misconception that even I do from time to time when I do portraits. But think of it as your simplistic shape, right? You got your Cupid's bow, which you saw, but your top lip and bottom lip don't always meet exactly at that corner. They usually stop a little early, and then that corner comes out, which is a little misconception as well. But we'll get into that with mouths. But overall, Kyle, you did pretty fantastic job as far as placing everything proportion wise. I just think that really finding, because I see this value that's right here, and I think if you just found a picture where that side is a little more amped up, it would give you a better opportunity to select your values accordingly. And I think that would have benefited your learning, because that's all you're doing. You're not just picking an image because you want to do it and you really like this person, but you're also picking it to better help yourself with what you're trying to study in that time frame, which is a fine difference in when you're studying art and when you're actually doing a project. Drinking my coffee, don't mind me. Okay. Overall, A+. Good job, buddy. All right. This was mine. I wasn't not like super thrilled about it. I think that I just wanted to implement value. And I think over these last couple of weeks, it's been making it really clear to me that I think the next chapter we should really talk about value, because I feel like all of you that have been consistently keeping up with this will benefit majorly from if we transition this section into value, because after that value section, I feel like you guys will feel a lot more comfortable with placing your values, which is something that I just figured out. Like within the last couple of days, I was like, oh, I get it now. And that's selecting your values accordingly. So what I mean, really, so if we came in here, right, and I'm using green for a reason, because green is the most sensitive color to the human eye, so you guys will really see what I'm trying to place in here. But you see that obviously my light source is coming from this direction. And so you see kind of what's happening here, right? There's this sort of transition that's happening. And that's because you're thinking about your surface as an overall shape, that's what it is, right? So you just place your values accordingly. You don't have to freak out over it, you just don't have to be like, oh my gosh, is the light hitting the nose right? Is this, just relax, calm down, take a deep breath. Okay, just think about your overall basic shape, right? Shape this top out kind of like a sphere, right? And then this kind of comes out, which is what we're going to learn as well today, because with eyes, nose, and mouth, there's different things that are coming out and then coming back in. There's lips that go down and then have this little dip here and then go back down again. So you have to take that into account. But we'll take this much more simplistic. Just think about your basic shapes. Think about what we learned in the first 3 weeks, which was looking at everything as a basic foundation. Basic foundation, right? Top of the head kind of spheres over. Cheeks bill out, so that's going to have a lump in it. So you can do that like a cylinder. Bottom of the chin, same thing. Spear it out. And these are just basic shapes, so you don't have to think about it when you actually start placing the values. Getting more comfortable with them too. They're scary, I know. Especially in tattooing, because I'm not coming back from that. Oh man. Sorry, taking another sip of my coffee. I don't know if anybody can see me while I'm also, because I know sometimes Zoom does that. I don't know Zoom at all. But anytime I pause, I don't know if you're just hearing dead silence. So you're like, where'd she go? So I do have to announce them when I'm drinking coffee. Anyway, we are learning the eyes, nose, and mouth today, as stated before. But we can't learn eyes, nose, and mouth without learning what we've kind of been learning throughout past couple of weeks, which is the placement of all of these here, eyes, nose, and mouths, which is according to our Loomis method, right? But we're going to kick it back even further. Remember that like big swirly thing that I was teaching you guys? Like it's a big swirl. It's got like a ratio to it. Remember that? The golden ratio, remember? Bueller, remember? Okay, check this kind of cool thing out. That still applies to the face, which is why I love drawing faces and why they're so, to me, complicatingly fun, because their proportions are to a T, So I think you can see this cool shape, and this cool shape is going to get mentioned 50 times. Right? Wow. This is a main shape that you should be thinking about when placing the eyes and the nose. And then thinking once again that the mouth shows halfway between the nose and the chin. Okay? Just a couple to start this out. Okay? To start your brains with the gears turning and stuff like that. Yeah. Anatomy is difficult. Okay, it's not easy. So don't think that you're going to immediately go to a piece of paper if you're just starting anatomy and just like throw out the best Harrison Ford portrait that has ever been seen. Don't do that to yourself. You're going to set yourself up for failure. Don't do that. We're going to take this one step at a time, which is why we're only going to be focusing on the eyes, nose, and mouth. Okay. So the eyes. Okay. As I stated, eyes are about halfway down the head. We kind of learned that through the Loomis method when you made that circle at the first hit. When we first learned the Loomis method, halfway between that circle was where the eyes would show. Okay. then the farness of the eyes, I'm terrible with literature, please ignore me. The distance between each eye is another eye, pretty much is what I'm saying. Okay. So I even have this problem because I usually make my eyes way too far apart and big, which you can exaggerate your proportions, but we'll talk a little bit about that later. But this is to learn the basic fundamentals, because you can't exaggerate proportions without knowing where proportions are supposed to be in the first place. It's said and done right there. So but if you are having trouble with placing your proportions, when in doubt, skull it out, because no matter what, your skull is going to tell you the information that needs to be there. Okay. So let's do this here. These are very creepy eyes, I know. Okay. Let's make sure we're on the right layer. All right, so these green things that are kind of tucked in the eyes, everybody knows those are the tear ducts. They're like two little tiny beads inside your eyes. Obviously, they control the tears. When stuff gets in there, they water up, all that fun stuff. They are basically one of my favorite parts of the eye. Don't know why, it just is. And then obviously we have the top lid and the bottom lid and our pupil with the iris here. So this is how I want you to think about eyes, okay? Eyes are not a circle. And yes, in cartoons, they're made in circles. And yes, in a lot of animes, they have that big rounded top there. But we're thinking here in a more realistic sense, okay? So please understand that there are many different ways of doing eyes, but this is the easiest way and for most fundamental way for you to look at them in the outside realm, okay? They are not circles with dots in them. They have shape to them, okay? A circle is a two-dimensional object. Irises are not, eyeballs in general are three-dimensional. They're pretty much little diamondy balls sitting inside your skull. So they're as three-dimensional as it gets. Okay. So you need to think of them as a three-dimensional form. So no matter what direction the head is facing, you need to be drawing them like diamonds. Okay. And thinking of them in that sense, because that's going to help you map out your top lid and bottom lid. If you think about it in that manner. If you draw it in a circle and you do the thing over like that, you are already assuming the position of your top lid and bottom lid without knowing where the rest falls. And that could really compromise the shape of your composition as far as drawing eyes. And if I'm moving too fast, please tell me. I'm trying to be a little more softer paced today, because there is going to be a lot of information. Okay. Another important factor, white does not exist in the eyes unless it's a hard reflection. Okay. So there is a rule of thumb in tattooing, and I also agree with this out in the organic realm. Nothing is white, absolute white. I'm not talking about 2 or 3. I'm talking about like 1 in the value scale of white. Nothing is absolute white unless it's metal or wet. Okay. And yeah, your eyes are wet, but they still don't have that 100% absolute white unless there's a direct light shining right into it. And even then, it still has like a yellowy tinge because of the color of the sun, the sunset, or whatever is happening. Okay. Making your eyes absolute white is what makes them look this creepy. And I'm not just saying because it's got purple or pink and blue in there too, but if I immediately started to tone down that white, your eyes are going to feel better and aren't just going to freak out because there's white in the little, I don't know what that's called. I'm so sorry. The not white in your eyes. Everything around the iris. So another thing that does happen when people make eyes, once again, circles aren't eyes. A cool thing that has been taught to me by Peter Hahn is when you are sketching, and I do this quite often. Turn my streamline down. So when I used to in my apprenticeship, when I used to sketch a lot of things, I would immediately like follow a line, and it would be like super sketchy, and everything was kind of guessing, and then it would start to become like this big old mess, right? And I'd be like, yeah, there's something in there. What Peter Hahn taught me was that if you basically leave spaces in between your sketches, like your sketch marks, you're giving your eye and brain more time to think about the actual moves that need to be made. And if you don't know Peter Hahn, for sure, look him up. He's one of those artists that can just take a piece of paper and an ink pen and just go. And to you, there aren't a lot of mistakes made, but he really talks about how he leaves these like margins in between his marks here. So that way even though it's not a finished line, your brain is still thinking about, oh, cool, okay, so there's a little tear duct and your eye here, and like it just all makes sense now. So that is one cool tip that I think everybody should exercise, is instead of just full forcing all these lines, leave a little bit of margins in between and see how that makes you feel with your sketches. That way you're not so much committed to something. And I've even done it with Big Pen, and it still works out pretty well. I did a couple portraits that way, and so it's an overall, it's a good way of doing things. Okay, so side view. Side view is also a huge struggle when learning eyes. So very much the common eye misconception is that it's one big little sandwich and then just a slit in the middle. Or I've seen people basically draw like an eye with the tear duct and everything, and then put like a pupil right in the middle of it and still have like this scary being looking at them. So eyes are not like this. They're not like horses, okay? The triangle is a cool beginning start to learning how to do an eye, but you still have to take into account this top lid and the bottom lid, okay? And remembering that your top lid is what closes, not them both together, right? So if you wanted to do it closed, you would bring that top lid down and leave that bottom lid where it is, okay? And you go that way. But what I think I want to really point out right here is your top lid and your bottom lid have their own shape, okay? It doesn't just go from the end of the top lid to like the brow, okay? Doing it in this fashion is going to give it a little bit more character, leave room for the eyelashes, and then you can extend into the eyebrow. So I think that's something that really needs to be pointed out. That shape is usually a more sunken in, kind of curved shape, and then back out again. And then the bottom is kind of more straight and then comes out, okay? And then make sure that you put this area here, iris. Make sure it's kind of like a ellipse, and an ellipse is more of an oval shape, while, you know, a circle is a circle. And then keep that pupil in the same kind of motion, that whole, you know, like half iris type thing. Okay, because your eyes aren't, you know, your iris area isn't a complete circle because you're still looking forward. So you're not seeing a lot of things. And last but not least, eyelashes. I even still have trouble with eyelashes, and I'm not, anything crazy. But these notes here have really helped me out. Just keep it in mind that what I'm really talking about is just the most simplistic things, but it's just keeping your brain aware of these factors, so that way you can ease your mind when you actually go to enter a portrait, which is a challenge in itself. And remember, this is the basic fundamentals of all this. Their eyes, nose, and mouth come in all different shapes and sizes. And I will be talking about the people that you can learn the differences in or with, definitely on YouTube and other seminars and stuff like that. But these are just the basic tips and tricks on how you can think about these here parts of the body once again. So eyelashes, definitely the top rows do curl up, and they usually show up on the sides. Everything that's in the middle, 95% of the time cannot be seen by, just by looking, right? Plus it kind of looks weird to do every single eyelash. Kind of looks like one big spider coming up the top of the lid. I wish my eyelashes were that full, but that just does not happen. And then the bottom lashes kind of just contour the lid, and they have a more straight edge to them because they're pointing straight down. They're quite more thin and fine, all that fun stuff. So just keep that in mind when you are doing them. Anything on the side profile, I always like to work in the rule of thirds. So I usually only do like 1, 2, 3, and then the bottom one, 1, 2, 3, maybe like a fourth one, but I usually work in those thirds. But just remember that these ones that are facing you are not going to be seen. So only do what is facing, the front part of the face. Don't be so concentrated with the sides. Okay. We're going to take a second. Because it's a lot of information, and this eyes, nose, and mouth could be its own, each individual chapter. But I'm doing just the, once again, basic fundamentals. Let me take a sip of my coffee again. Okay. So let's see here. Up next is the nose. I like noses. Noses are fun. They are very confusing to a lot of people starting anatomy. Eyes, I think, are one of the, not the simplest. They definitely are, have their challenges for them. But I think a lot of people like to gravitate towards eyes because they're so pretty and they got all these cool colors, and they're so individualistic and all that fun stuff that they kind of neglect the rest of the face. So I drew this massive nose on this person for a reason. So just, I thought it was kind of funny. Anyway, so we got the bridge of the nose, the bulb of the nose, and the nostril. And then we have that little tiny space. I'm going to share them right later. The little tiny space that's underneath the nose here. What? Oh. So that little space that's here, that's right underneath the nose that leads into the lip, is called a philtrum. I love that word. I think it's very neat and handy. The philtrum is very important to mapping out the rest of your nose. Okay, so here we go. So we're mapping out the mouth with the philtrum. So cool. Sorry about that. I needed to take a second. Okay. And I'm definitely drawing these parts in different, you know, directions, just so you can kind of see. But ignore that bottom one. I did that just to just to show how funny noses can be sometimes. Okay, so we're talking about simplification. Okay, so this is pretty much a nose if it were to be head on. All right, but if you've seen in a lot of comic books, and we're going to be talking about comic books a lot when it comes to these faces as well, or different parts of the face, that simplification does happen a lot. In a lot of comic books, you don't even see that bridge of the nose. That's like an almost indication that is, you know, sometimes it's just like a line that's like this, or sometimes it's not even there. Sometimes it's just the nostrils and then the bottom part of the nostrils here, and then that philtrum. Sometimes it's just that part. Sometimes when it's a side profile, it's just a little triangle. Sometimes it's just a little triangle and then a mouth, you know? Sometimes it's just like that. So simplification in a way is just less lines, but that equals less realism, okay? So you just have to keep that in mind, that as soon as you start taking away the structured lines, you start taking away the realism of it. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't equal a face, because it still does. As long as those identifying shapes are there, then it's a nose, then it's a mouth, then it's eyes. So that's why in a lot of cartoons and stuff, they can get away with just that circle with the eye and then a line for an eyebrow, you know, because to you, it's still an eye. You know what an eye looks like. So you're not going to question it. Which once again is my whole point of this, these fundamentals, is we're preparing the viewer to look at what we want it to look at. So, but remember that the realism does get taken away the less lines you use. Okay, a common thing that does happen is that I even do it still all the time. I hang the nostrils a little too low to where they match up with the bottom part leading into the philtrum. Okay, make sure I'm on some sort of layer. Okay, so usually people will make that bottom part of the bulb or nostril area that leads into the philtrum. We'll make that the same height as the nostril. Okay. Which is not good. You kind of want something like this that's over here. Okay, so you see that the bottom part of the nostril, and then the edge here. Okay, so it kind of looks a little more realistic, a little more characteristic, and naturally people's nostrils do not hang that low. They kind of are tucked up, little bulby things. But what I wanted to show more specifically on this side was to draw with a sense of lighting, which studying comic books is how you're going to do it. This is the best way to study your sense of lighting, and which is why I kind of want to transition this into value once we're done. So very sloppily, you can see that the left side here is much darker than the right side of the face. So you're going to see here, obviously, without even having value in it, right? That your sense of light is coming in this direction. Okay, it means that all this area is dark and all that fun stuff. And you don't even have to, think about the light source once you distribute using line weight, which you can do the simplification of these parts of the face in this manner as well. So if you wanted to take away, a good portion of things on this side, you can. Just like that. And it still reads as a nose. Make sense? I hope so. So Very important with that. I think that's all kind of can be fundamentally said about noses. Make sure they work in 3 different manners. You have your bulb, and then obviously your nostril area is another little bulby area, but make sure that when it is attached, it's still the circle. The 2 circles kind of meet up. Okay, and depending on the angle of the face, you're not going to see both nostrils. More commonly, you can see both nostrils in the front view and a 3/4 panel, like a full 3/4 panel. You can maybe see a hint of a nostril on the other side. But don't be super concentrated with both nostrils if that is what a concern is. Sometimes in cartoons, they really don't even show them at times, or that is the main focus, depending on the direction of the face. This is why it's insane. Anatomy is insane, because it can come in all different shapes and sizes, looks, colors, anything. But as long as you know just the bare fundamentals, you can start actually looking at your references and studying the similarities in all of those references, which is the basic structuralization of them. And I hope that makes sense, kind of. Okay. And I said that there was a lot of people that you can learn these types of, parts of the face with. One of them is Proco. I talk about him a lot. He has taught me the majority of my anatomy. Okay, Proco. And he actually has like this whole website with seminars and everything like that, where you can learn parts of the face, other parts of anatomy, like actual muscle groupings, light sources, all that fun stuff. Also, I talked about him last week. We got Cynics. He is more focused on the illustrative, realistic side of things, as far as, simplification, like we were talking about. Eliminating your lines, but still having that overall structure in relationship to the rest of the face. With that said, we're going to learn about the mouth. All these layers. All right, the mouth. All right. To me, the mouth is the trickiest one for me personally. Really honing in on that Cupid's bow is my problem. I always make that Cupid's bow like oh my gosh, and super angular, like almost a V. So this was fun to actually study this and try and improve it myself, and I can't wait to see my progress with this as well as yours next week. So the Cupid's bow is the most common part of the mouth. That's that little top part right where the philtrum ends. Make sure. So you obviously have that philtrum that's here, and then that Cupid's bow follows underneath it. And this is what I was talking about before, about the forms of the face. Even though light does make our face kind of look flat in some areas, you do have to remember that this part of the philtrum to lip area goes up and then back down, up and then back down. That is always the case. Your lips are pretty full right up to there. But do remember that the Cupid's bow is optional depending on how full or not full the lips are. Then we have our bottom lip. Our bottom lip, a big misconception with it is, which I did not know, and makes sense to me now. It is not a more plump-like effect like the top lip is. It's actually more of a surface. So it actually, it does have that curvature that's on the bottom here. But for the most part, it's pretty straightforward as far as straight from the top lip goes. So when you are thinking of it as a value, that's why it usually has that one glistening highlight that's like this, because that's where the curvature is. That's where it stops from being flat to back down. And that's how you have to think of it, which is why I put these contour shapes around the chin area as well, because you do have this shape that's right in here that maps out your cheek chin separation. That's what it's called. Okay, so you have that all comes out this way and then back down, back down, back down. Okay, so once again, it has that sphere motion. So you know how to add values in that way. So, you know, what's the problem? All right, so obviously we have that top lip as well. That's where that huge Cupid's bow kind of sits in. And I think of the Cupid's bow as its own section, not just the end of the philtrum, because to me, that's one of the most plumpiest parts, as well as the two little extending shapes that are here. I think of those as all separate. That way it's a little bit more simple. Instead of thinking it as like one whole croissant, it's its own three separate pieces. And those three separate pieces have their own shapes and contours and all that fun stuff. So you have to, you know, take that into account. And maybe it'll make it a little bit easier when you are ready to draw the lips. All right. Like I said, follow your contour movements. During my apprenticeship, what I did a lot is I would take a reference picture of a skull or a face, and I would just go in there and just start like dotting out where value is, or where value, you know, most common, where I see it, where I see the separations, so I can get my brain to thinking about those dotted aspects of things on their own. And you can do the same thing. You know, this is a study for you. This is your practice. There is a fine difference between the two, between what you are practicing and studying and what your project is. Okay. Your project is a 4-foot tall canvas that's filled with decisions and hard work. That's not the time to practice. The time to practice is when you don't care if it gets messy, or, you know, you're focusing in on one specific thing. Not an entire composition. So understand that you do need time in any stage of your career to do that. Okay, so what we're going to talk about as well is the structure of the relationship of the eyes to the mouth. Okay, so on the edge of your mouth, you have laugh lines. That does exist. Okay. And I hope you see what's kind of happening here, this wild shape that's happening right amongst here. Okay. So the center of your eyes match up not only with where your corners meet, but, you know, in some certain instances when your eyes aren't looking straight, they will still always follow that Cupid's bow. Which is why, once again, another reason why I like to take that Cupid's bow into account as the whole area rather than the end of the philtrum area. But I hope you saw kind of what was happening there, those fun shapes that we've been seeing nonstop. Aren't they great? So keep that in mind when you are making a face, and I think everybody should start making a face head on. I don't think anybody should really start delving into 3/4 panels or side panels until they understand their basic fundamentals head on, and seeing those cool shapes. And that cool shape is also, you know, within the chin as well. So it's just all fun and games, I promise. Okay. And like I said before, halfway from the nose is where the mouth lines. And keep in mind, with the end of your nose and the laugh lines here that are created, that is also a part of the face. Depending on the age of your character or your reference, they will be present in some way, shape, or form. And that's usually where the line for cheeks are, or darkest areas, I should say. Okay. All right. Here is the fun part. Well, the whole part's fun, but for me, this was the most challenging part, and actually learned a lot by learning and researching this section of lips, which is the most basic structuralization of it. we talked about that diamond D shape, you know, with irises. Well, we're going to talk about it again. If we think about the mouth as one big diamond shape, okay, and take this with a grain of salt, okay, that diamond shape around the mouth is only so you can get it started, get the structuralization started. That is not even a little bit where your mouth is, because as you can see here in the pinkish area where I actually drew the mouth, that's a more realistic representation of it. Okay, so if you do decide, if you do need to simplify it to this matter, this shape that is here will help you understand your planes of the face, okay, because you are now seeing that this is going in this direction, this is going in this direction, and to get the placement of your face started. That's it, okay? Because when you sit the lips on the face, okay, when you set these lips on the face, I'm gonna have to get a charger in a second. Remember that your top lip does not end up in the middle of your teeth. And you can do this right now. You can open your mouth, right? And they show up always, even when you open it. I know it extends up a little bit, but even if you touch your mouth, lips closed, you can see that the top of your lip actually shows up kind of like 3/4 of the way down on the front of your mouth, okay? And then the rest follows from there. It doesn't open on the halfway point. It does not, and I did not know that. So that was pretty cool to learn that. But give me 1 second. Let me grab a charger. The one thing I did not come prepared. There it is. Okay. Back to our mouth. All right, so I marked those plump spots once again. This is kind of, you can already see that the shape is starting here. And as you, I'm sure, I hope you can notice as well that I did not put in the bottom of the philtrum or the top of the Cupid's bow, but it's still present in this bottom structure that's right here. Okay. Once again, why I like to mark those as separate beings. Okay. They're like next door neighbors. Okay. Kind of makes like a little clown face if you really think about it. And here's the clown nose, and it's kind of like a mouth here. It's kind of like a creepy, very creepy clown, but whatever. So when you think of Cupid's bow, make sure that you kind of take that bottom part into account. Is really what I'm trying to analyze here for you guys. And then down here you have the markings of the chin, you know, which would go down. This would actually come down a little bit more. And if, you know, feel up your own face, man. You know, feel where the bottom of your lip ends. You know, you still kind of got some teeth right underneath that part. And then feel out where your chin is. Where your chin to your little divot in your skull here. Like it's all there for you. So learning skulls isn't impossible. It's very challenging, but it's not impossible, and it's just as difficult as you're going to make it, pretty much. Okay. I know this is a lot of information, guys. Mouth on the side profile. This is where I emphasize that the mouth does not open through the teeth. The mouth sits on top of it and helps you talk and eat and do all that fun stuff. But just keep it aware, once again, This is where the front of the teeth ends, and it's about 3/4 of the way down. Okay. The upper lip has dominance, of course, usually in all things, but more so with the side profile. Okay, so that side profile always has that. And this was the trickiest part for me learning side profile, was where the philtrum connects into the top of the lip. Usually, like I made a really silly nose. When I'd start that philtrum, I'd either make that philtrum way too up front, like way up here, and then immediately kick that into a super C curve and then lick down to where it just, yeah, look at that nonsense. It's like she's giving a kiss. But that was the trickiest part. But really, just remember that they're not, far off from each other. It's a fluidity of just one after the other. Okay, nose curve, bottom of the bulb, philtrum, top lip, done. And it keeps going to, bottom of the top lip, top of the bottom lip. That marker here that tells us where the chin starts, and then the chin. And the chins are still difficult for me. But it's still the same fluidity as the philtrum. Okay. So think of it in that manner. Always think of it in that manner. One after the other. Fluidity. They're not too crazy far off from each other. And holding it out like this, if somebody wants to screenshot it, they can. But once again, basic fundamentals of these shapes. I didn't want to get too much into shapes and sizes as far as what they all could look like, because there's so many. I mean, from cartoons to comic books to all that fun stuff, there's so many different shapes and sizes and all that fun stuff. So when it came to learning the fundamentals of this, this week was pretty tricky, and I tried to squeeze as much information out as I could without being overwhelming. Okay, so this is a couple panels from a comic book I've been reading, and this is where I wanted to emphasize the simplification of these eyes, nose, and mouths. So you can see here, I emphasized it a little bit. Okay, so we got, look at all the different shapes and sizes, first of all, right? So we got this little guy here, and his nose is pretty big compared to his mouth, right? But if you want to put it in perspective, right, it still all matches up, okay? It's still proportionally well. Here's the philtrum area here, and you got nostrils. Then you have, I know you can't really see it, but a hint of where the bulb is, and then your bridge. So those are all still there. So that's a nose. There it is. Same thing with her. You can't see this side of the bridge, but there is an indication with the smallest amount of value. Okay, and then this side of the bridge here, to bulb, to nostril, to philtrum, to top lip, to bottom lip, and so on and so forth. Okay, that's exactly what we've been talking about here. Okay, and it kind of just goes on from there. This is where we can also mention about the circles are not eyes, even though the top edges of these characters' eyes do have a roundness to them. You can see here that the top lid actually comes out all the way out here like this. If you did make a circle, you could get away with making it in this manner, but I think it'd be best to learn how to make stuff angular before learning to curve them. Okay, it's the better way of doing any sketches, especially in the early stages. It's better to have your head wrap around that sort of composition, and curving things out immediately, to me, it simplifies things, and at the same time, angular kind of just makes it more cut edge, so you can see if it's accurate or not. And same thing goes for tops of her eyes, right? They have those top edges, but those top lids as well, which is why I should probably, if you started out with just, switch to a different color. you started out with just this shape here, and then fill everything else in between, it would be a little bit more simpler for you instead of starting with just a circle and then trying to get a harder edge around it. That's just my opinion. So I just wanted to show this to show all the different kinds of mouths, eyes, and noses that you can draw. I hope it wasn't too overwhelming of information. It was a lot, and you could learn a lot more. That's why I definitely suggest those videos and seminars. And if anatomy really is interesting to you, start now and don't ever stop learning it. There's so much you can learn from it. But you can start creating cool characters from it. You can start really honing in on your references and doing all that sort of fun stuff. All right. So my throat's very dry, but we're going to do a flash sheet, like I said, of these different eyes, nose, mouths. So pretty much if you wanted, you could do like one of each. You could do like 2 nose, 1 eye, and a mouth, like rendered to your liking. But focus in only on that area. Don't make a full face. Don't make those eyes, nose, and mouth come together. Do not do that. I want them all separate. I want you focusing on the basic shapes of these closed up images and nothing else. So I chose eyes because, you know, I love eyes. And at this point, I will start letting people in so I can maybe not talk so much. So I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing my voice so much. So let me do that. Let me let everybody in. And when I do that, I'll let you guys know. See down here. Okay. It's very much a lot more gloomy today than it usually is when I do these outside, not me, because I'm fine. But I'm glad that there's lots of rain happening. All right, let's see. Have this. All right. So everybody can hop in now. And I'm going to get started, and then I'll see everybody pop up when they do. That always takes me a second. I'm very terrible at technology. I need to get better at it. I need to buy one of those technology for dummies books because it's becoming a part of my life. All right. So I chose eyes because I love drawing eyes, and I would probably do fun color renditions of them. All right. Fun, 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 fun. Okay, so I'm gonna sketch in red. All right. Okay. So I'm just using these as references, but I may just delve into my own eyes. So let's see. Oh, our good buddy Kyle. Let's add him in here. Say hi to our friend. Did I? There we go. Hi, Kyle.
Heyo.
What's going on, man?
Nothing much. How about yourself?
Oh, doing good. You did real good with that portrait. I was like, wow.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I always have a problem when I'm doing portraits. I always have a problem making it exactly like the reference. Like I always make it like slightly off, but you got that like
Mhm.
nailed. I was like, wow.
Oh, really? Because I was looking at it, I was like, I don't know, nitpicking a couple parts that were off.
Maybe that's why portraits are so hard sometimes because you can literally just stare at it for so long that it just starts to morph on you, and you're just like,
Yeah.
wow. All right. All right. Well, wonderful. Glad you joined us today, Kyle.
Glad to be here.
Thanks, man. I was talking way too much, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I hope somebody joins in here. Were you having any problem with my audio? Is my audio off?
No, everything seemed pretty good.
Oh, perfect. Okay, cool. All right. So I hope that the references I'll help everybody out with next week because I for a long time used to choose like the worst references, and I was like, why are my portraits coming out so horrible? Not only because I was 12, but but at the same time making sure I'm choosing my correct reference pictures. So I hope I didn't come at you too hard with the reference thing.
No, it's okay. You pointed out, and I completely understand.
Just making sure. All right, awesome. Well, how's everything going with you? Anything new?
It's going all right. Kind of transferring in between job locations in towns, so that's been a little stressful.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
it's it's weird. My friend lives in North Carolina, and she's been trying to find a job forever.
Oh, okay.
And she'll apply to so many places, but just nobody's hiring. And it's
Yeah, it
weird,
always seems to be like that when you need a job.
right? But everybody's hiring. I don't get it.
And then you'll get an email like 5 months later, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you want an interview?"
Literally. I know I used to happy that I got to get rid of my Indeed because of all the emails that were like, "Do you want to be a corrections officer?" It's like, what?
Yeah.
No, I don't think you want me to be a corrections officer, actually.
Yeah, I just immediately turn all those off.
Yeah, and that's how your email inbox becomes like 2,000 emails, and you're like, oh,
Exactly.
all the spam.
How about yourself? How have things been going?
Oh, they're good. Um, pretty all right. I mean, nothing's really changed, I guess. Very busy at the shop. Um,
That's good though.
yeah, all the college kids are actually, on campus this year. So
Nice.
we get, what do you want to do when you move out of your house for the first time and no parents are around? You're gonna go get a tattoo, I guess.
Of course.
I got to tattoo a noodle, like just a noodle, nothing else. I was
Just
like,
okay.
what? She's like, yeah, just, I was like, why do you want a noodle? And she's like, I don't know, I just really love pasta. It's like, all right.
Fair enough.
That's all you need. That's all I need to know for an answer for
Exactly.
that. Because I really love pasta. All right, absolutely. She got it as like a tramp stamp too, which was hilarious.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. So nothing crazy. The air here has been horrible, but it just finally rained today, so I think
Oh,
everybody's
that's good.
sort of excited about that.
Yeah, we just had some rain yesterday, which is very surprising for California.
Did you go outside and you were just like, wow, what is all this?
Yeah, I was at work, so I sat outside on my break.
That's hilarious. That's awesome. Well, the rain is good.
That it is.
Did you learn a little bit from what I was trying to say here, or was it kind of? Because I was
No,
trying
I
to get a
definitely,
lot of information in at once, and I don't know how.
yeah, I definitely learned from it.
Perfect. Good. So I'm just sketching out an eye. I've started to use, I think I've said it a bunch of times. I've started to use Procreate as a painting process rather than tattooing process. And it's sort of helped out a lot better when coming up with different compositions here. You know what? I'll just draw all the eyes first. Are you, which body parts are you gonna choose first, or parts of the face, I should say?
I'm doing eyes right now because I always struggle with those the most.
Really, you strike with eyes the most.
Yeah.
Is there a reason?
I feel like because if you just don't get that shape right, it looks horribly disfigured.
Yeah.
Like that's always seems to be the breaking point in mine is if the eye doesn't look right, it looks terrible.
You know what a cool trick is? When you're drawing eyes and stuff, I learned this over in Gettysburg. Don't draw the actual pupil of the eye until your entire composition's like done, pretty much.
Oh,
Because as
okay.
soon as you add an iris of any sort, it now is alive. Think of Frankenstein. Like as soon as you add it in there, you're like, oh, this is a person that's staring at me right now, and I'm very uncomfortable. So I usually don't add that in until pretty much very last. And it's actually became very helpful to my mindset when I do faces, which is pretty often. So,
I will definitely have to keep that in mind.
yeah, for sure, try that out. It's usually a lot better. And I've gotten into the habit of not even making not irises, pupils in my eyes, even a little bit. I don't know, I think they look nice and creepy. And you said you're taking this semester off, right?
Yeah.
How's that feeling? Pretty productive in other art ways?
Yeah, because I don't have to be bogged down by assignments, which would usually take up like all of my time.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite class that you had when you were doing classes, or were they all just kind of like, oh yeah, this is just like high school?
Well, I only did art classes, so
Oh,
I kind of
nice.
enjoyed them all.
See, that's awesome. So you didn't have to worry about any math classes or anything like that?
No. Yeah, I knew right away. I was like, I don't want to do any of this. I'll just take something that benefits me.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, good for you for making that sort of decision for yourself.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people need a break from certain things to get themselves readjusted and acquainted.
Absolutely.
No crazy dog today, I hear.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm lucky on that today. He'll be up and awake soon, though, that's for sure.
He's up now. He heard us.
Don't say that.
That's why I like little dogs the most, because they think that they're so big. And you're like, dude, you're like 4 pounds.
Right.
You're solid 2 dumbbells. Like you're so little.
Our little guy's medium sized, so he at least has a little girth to him,
Yeah.
but he's still just a small man.
I always think little dogs always walk like they're big too. Like they always have like they always puff their chests out and stuff. It's like, what are you doing?
They gotta act big.
They gotta be the toughest little dude on the block.
Exactly.
Me and my roommate want a dog very badly, but we just borrow our landlord's dog. And I'm like, okay, you can have him back now. He's starting to eat the couch. You're fine.
Yeah, there you go. Just get him on a rental system.
Oh, rental system. Yep. Well, there's like that app now that you can get where you go walk other people's dogs and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So that's always a good way of having a dog but not having a dog.
That's true, yeah.
That'd be a cool thing to have your, as a parent, just like, oh, you want a dog? Down the street, the neighbors have a dog.
Yeah.
Go walk their dog and come back, and then I bet you won't want a dog.
Or that'll just make him want it more.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. I think I had said this already, but I had a client that got 2 Great Dane puppies as their first dogs. And I was like, oh. And then, he was telling us that at the time he had already had them for like 6 months. And he got them as brothers, which he thought, I don't know why, he thought would calm them down.
Oh.
And apparently they ate ate their dresser drawers clean off the dressers and like ate all their pants.
Oh wow.
Yeah, the Great Dane puppies, they're like 5 foot tall babies.
That's insane.
Madison having a 5 foot tall baby. Well, it's a Great Dane. Congratulations. Hopefully I'll get a good portion of this somewhat looking like something before I call it a day. I'm actually gonna click this one. Are you doing black and gray, Karen?
Yes, I am. Maybe I'll add some color at the end.
I want to do a color one very badly, just to have everybody do a little bit of color. So I'm trying to. My boss at my job now is he's a very black and gray artist, and he's trying to transition me to black and gray at the same time I'm trying to transition him to color. So like I asked for some opaque grays, but that was just for color purposes. And he hands me his like entire opaque gray wash set. And he was like, here you go. I was like, no man, I just need like one color. He was like, oh, I thought I was transitioning you. I was like, no.
No, not yet.
Not yet, man. Not yet. awesome. And how scary eyes can look in the beginning stages of things.
Absolutely. Mine are still terrifying.
Do you have a little bit of something to show, or are you gonna wait one second?
Yeah, I got a little, I'll show you a little something.
All right. Let me please send this value in. Let me. I'm excited about this one. Let's see here.
There we go.
Hold on, let me spotlight you. Yeah. See? All right. I like that. Good job,
Thank
Kyle.
you.
That's fantastic. I think the only thing that I would say from another person's perspective, man, eyelashes are so difficult. Okay, so just even though in that picture,
absolutely.
Even though in that picture, the reference picture, all the eyelashes that are facing you are being shown. Try to eliminate those ones and make the edge ones a lot longer and have a more curve towards the end.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Try that out. Also, it's very important to state to, go based off your reference, but don't be manipulated by your reference. You're supposed to be the one manipulating your reference. So you don't have to copy exactly it to a T. Just see those basic structuralizations and then go from there, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But that's just that's my opinion. You don't have to listen or anything. But great job. You're really good with anatomy.
Thank you.
Is anatomy like an interest to you, or are you just like whatever? Okay.
It's interesting. I enjoy it.
Cool.
Not definitely not like number one, but still enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Go back to this part, but yeah, that's really good. Good job. I'm excited to see like a whole sheet of different parts. That's awesome. And I will say that when you did do like the first skull references and stuff like that, I was very shocked at how well you could do anatomy. I was like, oh, okay, Kai's got this down pat pending. I get it. Which is awesome. All right, so we got a little bit of time left.
Oh, love those.
Oh, these are very beginning stages, but just slapping down some undertones, because when you do anatomy skin wise, it's a lot that you have to take into account is what the undertone of the person is. So we have like this one right here. She's got a very cool undertone. It's very like lavendery, bluish purple kind of undertone. And then she's got a very warm undertone, same as her. But every time I do a little bit, of the darker, more caramel colored skin, I always like to apply purple on the bottom anyway, because then when you apply brown, a lot of the orange tones will come up like this, this color that's right here was just mixed together. It wasn't chosen, like it wasn't color picked together. It was mixed with, there's this tone that's right here and this tone right here make this tone, which is already like in a peachy, skin color. So no matter what, it'll fit in with the more caramel colored skin, because it's hard to make caramel colored skin without making them have jaundice. So
yeah.
That's the best way to do it, is to make it a little more purple.
Yeah, I've been learning the importance of just layering on those colors to get that one color that you're looking for.
Yeah, it's, I used to like always hand pick the color. I still do. That's still like a problem I'm trying to get rid of. Um,
Hmm.
I would hand pick every single color rather than just having two colors make a color and call it a day.
Yeah.
Um, so that's always been a little habit of mine that I've been trying to get rid of here. I don't know. I think to me it seems easier, but it's really not. So
Yeah, it comes out a little bit flatter that way.
yeah, and I've learned that once you start introducing, more colors to your palette, now those colors have to have relationship with all the other colors that are around. So it's like,
Yeah.
why are you going to do that to yourself rather than um, just limiting your palette and making stuff easier? Which I think is kind of funny that the majority of like new things to learn in art are resolved around just making stuff easier for yourself. Why does it have to be that hard? It doesn't have to be that hard. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it this way, and you're like, oh. But I think it's because we think that the masters and the people that we look up to, we think that it takes extreme talent and strength to do said thing, which it does, but not to the degree that we think. They're actually making their lives much easier, like we try are. So it's
Yeah, exactly.
a little bit different. And I just made these eyes of this green color, but we will be getting rid of it once we have our main structures established. And I've all the stores are starting to come out with Halloween stuff, and I'm like, oh boy, it's almost here.
That it is.
Even though
Closer and closer.
it's not even September.
I know my best friend was trying to go out Halloween shopping for some stuff, and I told her, I was like, it's literally still back to school season. Like, wait till September.
Yeah, there's a spirit Halloween opening up like down the street from our house, and we're like, God damn, we're in trouble. That's the only thing that I said that I wanted out of this new apartment was to have a really cool Halloween party. But I don't know if we're gonna do that because of everything going on.
True, that's right.
Like Kyle's like, that's right, we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Some people forget that.
Yeah. Yeah. Our my town just mandated the masks again. And I was like, even though it felt really uncomfortably weird to go places without having to wear a mask these past couple months.
Hmm.
So it's been weird. I think it's kind of cool that her little white part of her eyes are like a cooler color. So we're actually gonna change that. So you said that eyes are the trickiest part for you.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So you don't have a tougher problem with any of the other ones that we talked about today?
No, I definitely do struggle with them, but I think just like whenever I look at a piece, like the eyes are always the first thing that I notice that look off.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like if the nose or a mouth is like a little off and crooked, you can kind of still tell. But like if an eye is crooked, it's very obvious to see.
That is very true.
Plus there's two of them, so
But
if
yeah,
one doesn't look right, and that messes it all up.
that's the trickiest part. But I always like to think of it as they're sisters, not twins.
That's true.
Because you can define the eyes based on like the light source that you have, which is, like the nose thing I was talking about.
Yeah.
So depending on your light source, you may not see a lot of the eye that you'd see in the west. So that's why when a lot of people, like, depending on what you're doing, when they copy the eye and just flip it over, it still sometimes doesn't look great. Like, it still looks weird. I'll do that sometimes as just a reference, but I don't usually ever solidify that layer together.
Yeah.
When you're doing any type of art stuff, do you find yourself like talking to yourself sometimes, like out loud?
I do that like all the time anyways, so yeah.
That makes sense. And I'll do that when I'm with clients as well. Like, I'll start talking to myself about the stencil and they're like, what? And I'm like, what? It's like, no, it's not you. It's
Just thinking out loud.
just thinking out loud because the stencil is not going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely do that in like all situations.
Yeah, I see that painting you're doing. It's coming out great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Are you like about halfway point, or how you feel about it?
I'd like to say the halfway point. I've got a lot of the values pretty laid in where I'd like them, so it's just a
Yeah.
matter of building some detail off of that.
Fantastic. Hot dog.
But we'll have to see how it goes.
That's always it, isn't it? We'll have to see.
Yeah, there's been a couple times already where I'm like, I'll just put it on hiatus and come back to it.
It's the belly of the beast, my friend. That's
Yeah.
the pinnacle point where you're almost done with it. But that's when you need to make the final push because it'll be worth it when it's done. And then you won't have to think about it.
Exactly, yeah.
And then you won't have to add it to the unfinished list of paintings that haven't gotten finished.
Oh, don't even get me started on that unfinished list.
Like my whole actual portfolio that I have here is filled with unfinished paintings. But they're just sitting there. They're just hanging out. Like, when will it be our time? Well, I don't know.
Maybe in a couple years.
Yeah, ask me at Christmas. That's how it will be.
Yeah, I recently made a list of all the projects that I had unfinished that I wanted to pick up for whenever I don't have anything to do. And
Yeah.
that list has not moved much.
Yeah, that's always the crappy part. I always hate when I have like, and this is just resistance students thing, but I hate when you have that super good idea, like this wicked good idea, and then like the more you get into it and get close to finish, you're just like, the motivation is fleeting with the paint stroke of my hand.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that I'm just gonna put it away till next season comes up.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a lot of those on my iPad.
All right, I'm gonna start putting this iris in here, so that way you kind of, everybody can get the idea that it's starting to look like an eye for real now. An eye without eyelashes looks so weird.
Looks a little naked.
Yeah, it just looks a little naked. All right. I know I said this like 4 times, but I'm about to call it for now.
Have you seen any good shows lately?
I've been binge watching like all of the like Narcos type shows. Like there's Narcos and then Narcos Mexico and then the Queen of the South. I don't know what it is with me with these drug cartel shows, but I'm loving it.
Oh, okay, nice.
But that's half the time I'm usually watching. There's like a really good mushroom documentary on Netflix. Talking about like all the different types of species they have and all that cool stuff.
Nice.
I usually just put it on and then listen to it. And then when I hear like loud stuff happening, I'm like, oh, that must be the action scene. Let me look up.
Yeah.
Stuff might be happening. Okay. I'm gonna say it again. All right, I think I'm about to. There's a lot that still needs to happen with this eye, but this is a good resting point for now. Everybody kind of gets the idea of what's going on here. It's starting to become something. Even though this eye is pointing in the opposite direction, the color scheme will still match up. Just no eyelashes. Okay, so I'm gonna see yours, Kyle. Okay.
Okay, let's pull them up.
Sure. Yeah. Right on me. You spell it again.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool. Okay, so these are much better references for sure. That will be the first thing we get into next week is very much reference pictures, but very good job. You're definitely waiting to put that iris in there or the pupil. I don't know why I keep calling it iris. That pupil in there. So that's good. You got the tear duct in there. Everything's great. Yeah. I'm digging it. All right.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see when it's done. Perfect. Good job, Kyle. Okay, awesome. Let me spotlight myself now. Wait, how do I? No. Man, spotlight for everyone. There we go. I hate technology. I really do. Even though it's the reason it brought us all together, sometimes it just makes me lose my mind. All right, everybody. This was the Thursday morning fundamentals. I know we learned a bunch today, so feel free to watch this over and over and over again. On the group, right after I log off here, I will be posting several videos to watch. Gives you more information on nose, eyes, mouth. You can get that at the Reinventing the Tattoo Free app, and it'll be right in the group exercises section, or right on my page in the community page. You can find me at Frankie Tattoos Things. Ask me any questions. If you want me to go over something else that you didn't quite understand, I'd love to take the time personally to help you along with it. Maybe you can teach me something too, because that's what this fundamentals group is all about. You're learning, I'm learning, we're all learning. So with that being said, thank you so much to the Reinventing the Tattoo crew, Sandy, Guy, Gabe, Lauren, all you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for helping me out with everything. Thank you to the Horsemen for inspiring me every day and making this type of confidence possible. With that being said, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, everybody. And I'll see you guys